Hi there and welcome to a new vlog. I'm starting a new series, a series about the making of my albums. In the past I've released 4 albums: Almery, Transit Realities, Singularities and Modern Ruins. And each will feature in an own featurette. And today we start with Almery. Here's a little history about how I started making electronic music. In 1986 I met my best friend Mark Guntlisbergen at school, and he introduced me to the world of synthesizers and electronic music in general. Before that I only heard about Jean-Michel Jarre and Vangelis, but Klaus Schulze, Tangerine Dream, Michael Garrison, those were completely new to me. And Mike introduced me to this world, which I'm very grateful that he did. So shortly after that I bought my first synthesizer. It's the Sequential Circuits Pro 1, which you see right there. Actually the rest here is the equipment that is being used for Almery. So most of it is still here. Then I continued buying more equipment, like some more synthesizers, a TR-808 and the Korg DDD-1 drum machine, which I actually still use at this moment. Then I continued buying more synthesizers and recording equipment and made a ton of recordings of experiments and compositions. These were made on cassette decks like these, on tapes like that. And after a while we thought it was time to start a project and release this as an album. Of course we had to release it on cassette because CDRs were not available at the time. I think Almery project started early 1989 or ending in 1988. So at that time burning CD-ROMs was not possible. Actually we didn't have a computer. So here I would like to take this opportunity to give a huge credit to my best friend Mark Guntlisbergen for his input into the creation of Almery. Even though he didn't play a single note on this album, most of the ideas and most of the most beautiful sounds that were programmed on the Elka syntax were done by him. When he had an idea about some musical concept, he would come to me and we'll discuss it and ask me to translate this into a musical world. Most inspiration we got was from things that happen around us, but also by the sounds we heard around us. For instance, the sound that the wheels of the subway made when going in a tunnel, hence the title Tunnel Vision. Mike had an Elka syntax of his own, so we were both quite happy owners of an Elka syntax by then, and he would program some sounds on it that would be used on the album. So for instance the beautiful choir sound on The Laughing Magician and the drone sound you can hear at the beginning of Encom are programmed by him. So Almery was basically recorded on the equipment you see right here, except for the Elka syntax and the TR-808, because these don't belong to the studio anymore, and the Korg Monopoly, which is right there on the floor but could not fit into the frame. And the album was recorded on this cassette deck, and the mixer is right there. It's an ordinary disco mixer, very noisy, and this was the main sequencer for the Pro 1. It's the Roland CSQ 600 sequencer, which was to drive the Korg Monopoly or the Sequential Circuits Pro 1. And the Elka syntax had its own sequencer. And there's another feature in this album which is also a product from Mike. It's a fuzz box which was used to make a guitar sound on the Laughing Magician track. Actually it's completely intact except for the power cable, because I needed a power cable at some time and removed it, but it's probably still working. At the beginning of the Laughing Magician track, that is the long track of the B-side, you hear some echoing, scattering voices. Actually, those are scattering voices, sound chopped in pieces, glued together, and which is made with this machine. Actually, I can now run the tape that has the original effect on it. It should be ready now. So what you hear now are some snippets of the voices that you hear in this track, and these were later glued together and layered and then worked. This is maybe the most recognizable piece. And then with the sound on sound option on this recorder, you could overdub this sound, and by giving a feedback loop from the tape to the recorder itself, you get this tape echo effect, which is basically a tape echo. So everything on Almery was recorded on this cassette deck together with another one, and then I made overdubs, and with each overdub I added more instruments. That means that there was no room for mistakes. Each time there was a mistake, I had to redone the whole recording, and there was no option to make another mix or an end mix. So I learned to listen very carefully to the recording while performing the instruments. And I think I can let you hear a piece of the background track of one of the tracks from Almery. It's the first recording without the additional instruments recorded on it. So what you can hear now is the track Flight of the Pterodactyl, and it's without the additional instruments. It's only the sequences and the drum machine. So I think it's quite amazing that the recording that is nearly 25 years old still sounds so fresh. That is the exact original recording, the exact tape that has the recording from 1989. And it still sounds very new and fresh. There's no processing done, just a little bit EQ just to refresh it a little, but nothing else. And the cassette ended up in a shape like this. This is an original copy of the Almery cassette, and also the artwork was a great idea from Mike. His idea was to make a photo of the color patterns that appear on soap bubbles. I thought it was a good idea, so I set up some color lights and started to blow bubbles and put a macro ring on the camera and started photographing them. So I think there's a mystery solved here. Most people had no clue what they see in this cover and thought it was some kind of lava, but it's just a soap bubble. I found the original sheet of the cover of the Almery album, which was used to print the cassette covers, and the first design was like this. That was not approved quite well, but it was not a bad idea. And as you can see, it's designed by Emil Brugman. The photo was done by me, and the idea was by Mark Guntlisbergen. As you can see, the print is, the text is on this sheet, and underneath is the original photograph. So this had to be color copied and then magnified by 70%, and then you end up with that. Almery was a pure analog product. No computers or samplers were used in this album, and even the reproduction was a pure analog product. In 2008 I rediscovered the Almery album and tried to recover the sound straight from the original cassette tapes, tried to recover them and refresh them as much as possible. In 2010 this officially was released on MellowJet Records, and before that I did a pre-release independently which looked like this. It's not available anymore. This was released as a CDR, and also as a digital download. In 2010, MellowJet wanted to release it officially on their label, and they came up with a cover like this. It's actually a different picture from the same film that was used to photograph the soap bubbles. And on the back you will have a nice picture of the studio in 1989. While we're still in the relics mood, this pile of tapes is what was required to record the whole Almery album. As there are different versions of different tracks, and also tracks that are not released. So the 2010 version on MellowJet is still available at mellowjet.de, and they have them available on CDR, a little bit different from the original one, and also as a digital download. I still have some of these copies available in my store. You can order them at my website, renesplinter.com, until they're gone. So if they're gone, I will let you know on the website. So that was it, the behind the scenes of Almery and the story about the recording process and the inspiration. Personally, I think it was quite interesting to see what is still left in my memory about this album. I had to do some research because it's still quite a long time. But that's exactly the reason why I make these series about the albums. To go back in time and document whatever is known about these recordings and albums. So I hope you like this one about Almery. The next one will be about Transit Realities and how it's made and what the inspiration was to make this album. But for now, I'm signing off. I'm Rene Splinter. See you. Bye.